When Howard is walking the dog, footprints appear. It's like 2 or maybe 3 sets of footprints.
How would you explain why the footprint that appeared in Dudenhoff's apartment has their shoes?
Framing, maybe?
There was a very interesting thing that I had noticed on the board. There was all these different theories. The one that stood out the most, that seems the most plausible, was the only one that was slanted on the board. You know how Charles had 3 different boards?
They're expanding.
They're expanding.
They're
getting
multiplying. All these... Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Mark and I are talking about the hit Hulu series Only Murders in the Building, Season 4, Episode 5, Adaptation, so spoilers are ahead. And if you're enjoying this video, then be sure to give it a like, and if you don't want to miss a single one of these or the next series that we do, then just be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications. And with that, I think we'll start off with maybe the brothers sisters.
Yeah. Okay, so, I've been between Bacula and the brothers sisters, and I feel that because it's episode 5, and now that they are the ones that are being looked at, I feel like it is not the brothers sisters, but it still could be. Like, how are they going to explain the shoe print?
And yeah, and it could be one of those things where a bunch of that information is correct, but it's still not necessarily directly related to the killing. Because it does seem like a very good theory. And they definitely were pushing us that way this episode. Did you see the little Easter egg in the intro?
No, I think I missed it.
Blink and you miss it. So when Howard is walking the dog, footprints appear, and it's like 2 or maybe 3 sets of footprints. So it's like it gave us a little tease that they were going to be kind of pushing that. And then I felt like when we saw the brothers sisters at the very beginning with that giant case.
Yeah, that was like the giant rifle is in there.
Yeah.
But then also, why would they have the giant rifle at the photo shoot? That doesn't quite make sense.
That's why I think that they were setting it up to make it seem like them. And really pushing that hard so that they could have then a big kind of reveal. Yeah,
I mean, it does seem plausible with the brothers sisters, with the idea that it was 2 people having to commit this crime. So there is that sense of it could be them, but since we're only on episode 5 and we're looking at them, I feel like it can't be them.
Right. Although they have yet to do that where they've really lined somebody up hard as a suspect and then gotten that person out and then turned around and it turned out to be them. I definitely agree based off of what they've done in the past, it wouldn't be them. But if they did really want to trick us, this would be a great way to do it.
How would you explain why the footprint that appeared in Dudenhoff's apartment has their shoes?
Framing, maybe?
All right. There was a very interesting thing that I had noticed on the board. You know how Charles had 3 different boards?
They're expanding.
They're expanding.
They're getting multiplying.
All these... I know. It's like, these are his magnum opus of murder boards. Right. There was the who, the what, or the how, the why. And so when you looked at the why, there was all these different theories. Like, one was as goofy as like a fender bender. There was like, firing your agent. All of these different things. The one that stood out the most, that seems the most plausible with somebody from the production, was not paying for the rights. And that was the only one that was slanted on the board. All of the other ones were straight on the board, and that one was tilted. And I'm wondering if that is a little clue, and maybe this could point to possibly being Bev, and she is, she lied about being at the 100 under 100 gala. So I do think that could be the reason, not wanting to pay for the rights.
No, not wanting to pay for them.
For like Charles' rights to the show. Which, I mean, I feel like that even though if he was dead, they would still have to pay for the rights from his daughter, is who I'm assuming. But
and at this point, the check is cut. Unless there's a deal where they come out in installments. I think
Right.
that's done.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, then let's talk about the name of the episode and I think kind of one of the major characters that relates to. So this episode was called Adaptation, which I've owned for a long time and haven't watched.
You've never seen Adaptation?
No, and I really like Charlie Kaufman's scripts. So
I actually have never seen Adaptation either, but I know a little bit about it.
But it's up my alley. It's the kind of thing I should have watched. And I even was thinking of watching it in preparing for this episode. And here's the sad thing that stopped me. I'll be honest. Sad thing that stopped me is I own it on DVD or Blu-ray, and I just don't want to, like, it's not connected, the Blu-ray player, and so then I have to, like, get it out and, like, dust it off and connect it, and I don't know, at this point, I rarely watch my DVDs or Blu-rays.
Why do you still have them then? If you're not watching them, get rid of them, boomer.
I want to convert them. That takes time and effort.
Fun facts about Adaptation.
Okay,
Meryl Streep's in it, and Meryl Streep is,
right,
Oliver's love interest. But the really cool thing, I know we were taking a look at Marshall. He's a writer. Adaptation is about a writer. But in the movie, Nicolas Cage plays twin brothers in that movie.
Yes.
The brothers sisters, they are sisters. And with the production and the photo shoot, we saw that there were doppelgangers. There were sets of two. And the new theory that it took two people to kill Sazz and get rid of her body, I feel like that's a little bit like a double entendre of what they were using with Adaptation and the doppelgangers.
Yeah, it does seem like doubles are definitely a thing that are coming up a decent amount. Do you think this could be the first season where there are two people that are involved?
Well, technically we had two people in the last season.
It was only one person. The other person was covering.
Well, no, because she poisoned him. It
was attempted.
Yeah, she attempted murder. They both went to jail.
Yes.
Technically, only one person fired the gun in this episode, too.
Yes. Okay.
So, I do think that two people still could be involved.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the brother sisters anymore. Unless, like you're saying, they're just trying to do an old switcheroo and actually show that they are weird.
They are very weird.
They're some of the oddest characters.
Yeah. So Marshall, I think, is like the biggest connection to the namesake of the episode, Adaptation. He has a Charlie Kaufman picture on his mirror. He is dressing and looking like Charlie Kaufman, like the whole beard thing, glasses, the outfits. And I do wonder about him. I don't know if I'm necessarily naming him as a suspect, but there are some very odd things about him. Like when he's wearing all of those out in the intro and you see him dressing up the part and trying to work on a screenplay, he's wearing all of those outfits in his home. That's before he sends anything out, before he gets a call. And even when he does send something out and get a call, that's all virtual. It's not in person.
Maybe it's like that fake it till you make it, dress for the job that you want,
Yeah.
But Marshall is a very weird guy.
And I do kind of wonder, there is an angle of me of him not thinking that he can write a good story and wanting to be able to, like, live it out to be able to then document that story, which kind of reminds me of there was a Mr. Ballin episode, where one of the characters was researching serial killers, did thorough research so that he could write a book, and then it turned out that he was doing real life research by becoming one so that he could actually write, and this is true, so that he could write the most convincing story about a serial killer. And so it kind of, I got similar-ish vibes of, like, what if he's trying to he doesn't think that he could write the story unless he kind of lived it.
Maybe. But do you think that, like, because we've looked at him... Because, like, I feel like one thing that we've seen in Only Murders in the Building is we don't look at a suspect, think it's them, give them a pass, and then come back to them. You know, it's
But
always...
have we looked at him hard?
Well, I mean, the trio, they looked at him as a suspect first. They questioned him.
They just questioned... It was, like, over in a flash. Like, as soon as they questioned him, they're like, oh, yeah, you're not... And he didn't actually show his alibi, which might have been a very clever thing, because he had this YouTube video showing that he was doing a comedy set, but he made it seem so boring that they didn't want to watch it. He's like, oh, it's only an hour. And they're like, no, we're good. So we never actually saw his alibi.
That's true. I mean, we only saw Bev's alibi in a flash of a picture. That could have been on any day, really.
Okay. It was a damn good alibi, though.
And they technically could have watched his alibi, like the first 5 minutes, to be like, okay, what's the date of the performance? Let me make sure you were in California. So I don't know if I think it's Marshall, okay. But he does also give off the odd vibes, though. So
he was so excited to be. I know that he's writing this, and so he wants to, you know, like, have as much information as possible, but he was way too excited to be a suspect for them and looking at their murder boards to see what they have. He instantly sees something nobody else sees, which is, like, the timeline.
But then why would he point that out, that the timeline... Because, like, that gave them a bigger clue to be like, all right, our timeline is off. Now we got to start really thinking about how this was done. Versus, if he let him just think that, he'd be like, perfect, let him be on the wrong track.
But he potentially sent them in the wrong direction with, you know, looking at the brothers-sisters of it can't be done with one person. And so then they're looking at, you know, two people. And they keep pushing this narrative of it has to be a strong person. And I wonder whether or not some of the information that they have is incomplete, which is why it's making them think that, oh, it has to be two people, or it has to be a really strong person, or whatever. I do kind of wonder about that could easily be crossing out a lot of people in our mind. Because right now we're so focused on uber physically fit people.
Right.
Which, like, honestly, of all the people that we have, who is uber physically fit outside of maybe the brothers, sisters? I don't know.
Christmas tree guy.
Christmas tree, he is.
Okay, new theory.
Yeah.
This is a tinfoil hat theory, so everybody at home, get your tinfoil hats on.
Beep boop.
All right. Sazz is good friends with the Westies. She is Dudenoff. They know that there is the production coming for Only Murders in the Building, the movie. Sazz is looking to quit being a stuntman, so she is letting her friends, the Westies, know that she doesn't want to be a stuntman anymore. The new production means that whoever they get to play Charles would probably use Charles Stuntman as the stuntman in Only Murders in the Building. The Westies, wanting to save their friend from being in this movie, tries to shoot Charles. Wait. All right, that doesn't work. Never mind. But I was thinking one of the Westies shoot her, Christmas tree guy takes her into the incinerator. But I don't think that makes sense anymore. Maybe that's not right. All right, forget that. Scrap it.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's chat about Bev.
Okay.
I do wonder about her. Because, like, how did she know where Sazz's place was?
Yes. Why did she have a gun? I do think the gun is important. Like, I think we'll come back with the gun.
Okay.
More about the gun. Because the detective took it. I think there will be more, like, who it's registered. I think that's going to tell us a lot. But yeah, Bev being there was odd. Especially just hearing this call. And then she dies. And so she's like, I'm going to go to Sazz's trampoline park. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I do wonder whether or not she found something else that she's not being honest about. I really don't think it's her, because I think that's too close to the producer from last time.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if that'd be kind of repeating things. So I don't think it's her. But I do think that there is more to get from her, and that for whatever reason, you know, she's probably like protecting her production.
Yeah.
By like hiding information. I don't think she's protecting that she's the murderer.
Right. Because I'm just also thinking, like, you know, if we do think which this also could be a red herring, that it's somebody from the production.
Yeah.
But if it is somebody from the production, like, the only people that we've gotten to know that were in the first episode, so we could have seen the killer, were Bev, Marshall, the brother sisters, and the cast. But like, I don't really think it's the cast. Like Ava Longoria, even though she's a little crazy, she did shoot somebody. She tried to shoot Christmas tree guy with a fake gun.
And it would be an opportunity for them to set up a fake portrayal of a real person as the murderer, because we've certainly had real people as a potential person. Like, I think the first one was Sting.
Yeah, Sting was the first one.
I love that in like episode 1 or 2, where they thought that Sting was the killer. Hilarious, you know? But we haven't actually had a real person as the murderer, and I wouldn't put it past them at some point. But I also don't see why one of these people would be doing it. Unless, right. Yeah, unless they really don't want to be in the production and they think that'll get them out of the contract.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't understand why the production team would want to kill... Anybody in the production team would want to kill Charles.
I can see it as a way of, like, drumming up an even better story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However, although I don't necessarily see that great for, like, a sequel, you know?
Right.
Losing one of the main ones.
And if it was Marshall that did it, and he shot Charles, that would... You know, because like you were saying that Marshall wants to be in the thick of it. If he was trying to kill Charles, that would pretty much end them doing Only Murders in the Building podcast, so they wouldn't be researching a murder, most likely. So I think he does seem like he wants to write multiple versions of this story, sequels, probably a trilogy.
Right.
So that might get him off the hook too. One quick side note, when you brought up Sting... I love that we always go to the penthouse apartment. That was Sting's apartment in the first one. I can't remember whose apartment it was in the second one. It was Ben Gilroy's in the third, and now it's the production suite. And I love that...
It was Amy Schumer's, wasn't it?
Oh, it was Amy Schumer's. That's right.
It was Amy Schumer's.
That's why I forgot. I blocked that out of my mind. I just said, no thank you.
So, a few other tiny things about Bev. I like the Bechdel test joke, which I thought was very appropriate I realize you can apply this to any kind of media, book, whatever, but I feel like it's most commonly talked about with film. And so it felt very appropriate in that moment. And I do wonder, kind of talking about the connection that those two were having, whether or not Mabel is going to be producing Howard's podcast at some point. Because that was her big revelation, is like, I'm a podcast producer.
That's, you know, I did think about that. And when, like, I was thinking when she couldn't think of these different podcasts, I was like, why don't you just say Howard's podcast? You have one right in your back pocket.
Right.
I thought about that too.
Okay, so let's talk about some remaining questions, because I still have some. The first is, do you think somebody was actually killed at the end of this episode?
No. I think...
Really?
Because I think that, like, what Only Murders in the Building does is they show a very, like, misleading ending.
Yeah.
They cut it off, and then it's like, okay, this is how they explain it. So, like, the last episode specifically, we saw Bev aiming the gun and said, don't move or I'll blow your freaking brains out, looking like she recognized the three and was about to shoot him. And then she, like, oh, it's just you guys, sorry, like, yada, yada, yada. I think this one will be something like a light bulb exploding, like, under the heat of the lights or something like that. And somebody yelled gunshot or whatever. And it's going to be, I think, misleading.
Okay. I wonder whether or not, one, whether or not it is a real death. And then two, if so, who that would be. And then three, who would have motivation to try and do another murder, you know, like, and so that's kind of where I was going. I could definitely see this as being misleading us about what happened. Yeah. However, the text did say that Howard said they've been shot, which still could somehow be construed another way, maybe, possibly. But they could 100% be screwing with us. They were looking for one of the two brother-sisters because they suddenly realized, oh, it's them.
Yeah.
So I could see it as being one of them was shot, which would really make it seem like, okay, it's definitely not the brother-sisters. We made it seem like they were this episode, but if they got shot, then definitely not them. I could see that, and I could possibly see they made a big deal of sending Charles to get makeup, and then he left that, but his stunt double was still at the makeup chair. And it's another Charles lookalike. If somebody is trying to kill Charles,
they killed Charles lookalike.
They could have shot Charles's lookalike.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, the first time I watched that episode, when I saw Charles's double in the chair, I forgot that they had doubles that were playing all of them. And so I thought that was Bakula at first. And I was thinking, Bakula confirmed. It's definitely Bakula. But after watching it again, I realized it was his double. So I do like that theory that he could have shot the double thinking it was Charles. But who shot him? And what's the motivation?
That's what I can't figure out. And the last thing I have is one of the few things they haven't brought up from Sazz's apartment, where she had all those notes, is it had Helga written on it, which is Rudy the Christmas guy's crazy ex.
Yeah.
We did find out that Helga was her name, but it was very briefly, and it wasn't related to the fact Sazz has that name. So I think Helga is somehow involved. I don't think she's a murderer.
Yeah.
We haven't seen her. We've literally only heard her voice once, and everything else has just been references. So I don't think she's a murderer, but I think she was maybe working with Sazz on whatever Sazz was fine. So like maybe in contacting her, maybe that helps start to like unravel the picture.
Yeah, and also Helga could be a code name. Like
it could be.
If granted, the Westies do seem to really not like Helga, and maybe Helga was around, but if Helga was only like a long distance relationship where they only communicated over CB radio, then Helga could be a front for somebody else. Or Helga could even be Sazz that is still alive and trying to get them to stop investigating because Sazz is undercover because Sazz is still alive.
So that was what I thought could be an interesting thing about having a murder from this episode, is it would give us a murder which would allow us to have Sazz be alive, because we have to have a murder in the building.
But is that in the building?
That photo shoot, I thought it was in the building.
Maybe it is. I just am not sure because it doesn't look like the Arconia in there.
Okay.
But I could be wrong there. But that would also, but like, I hope that it's true because that would satisfy the murder and we could get Sazz back.
Potentially, yeah. Who knows?
I don't want Sazz to die.
I know.
But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you folks so much for joining along. Come back next week as we do Only Murders in the Building, Season 4, Episode 6. We will see you next week. I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks.